Hi there, and welcome to our Vegas Nation Stadium show, where we provide instant analysis and all the up-to-date information on what is happening with the NFL stadium set to open in 2020. I'm Ed Graney, sports columnist at Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I'm pleased to be joined again by Review-Journal reporter Rick Velotta, our man on all things stadium. Welcome, Rick.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Let's begin on updating the folks on what has transpired since we last spoke about the stadium. Specifically, now there was a meeting of the Stadium Authority Board last week. It seemed that things remain on track with construction, signing the final developmental agreement. Bring us up to date on that, and if you foresee any issues going forward on the main issues with this stadium.
I think a lot of people were really kind of disappointed with how that meeting went because there was so much expectation that there would be more done. And really they just kind of kicked the can down the road some more. One of the things that we thought was going to happen and didn't was the naming of a chairperson for the benefits, the community benefits plan. One of the things that came up there was that there seemed to be a little bit of friction between two of the board members as to who was going to be best qualified to lead that group.
There's also the issue, not an issue, but the non-relocation agreement where I think we tell the folks, meaning the Raiders are going to have to commit themselves to 30 years, I believe, minimum to stay here. We can't have this happen in 10 or 20 years down the road where Mark Davis now likes San Antonio. He says, let's go there. So explain that, and I assume in future meetings, these are some of the main things that are going to be settled, whether it be the chairman or the Raiders need to finally agree, and everyone needs to agree on this non-relocation agreement.
Yeah, the 30-year agreement is pretty standard, and it runs parallel to the basically the lease that they would have in terms of how long they would be committed to staying. There are some phrases in that agreement that would advance it forward again, like a renewal of 6 years, 3 at a time. So it would be one of those things where it pretty much commits them to staying here unless they would be if they did try to move, they would be penalized.
Let's go to the Board of Regents now. There's a meeting this Friday, I would assume it's over the joint lease agreement with UNLV and the Raiders. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And do you think anything is going to hold this up, or should this be, now nothing's quick with the Board of Regents, but should it be a quick and decisive vote to approve the joint lease agreement that Raiders and UNLV have come together on?
Every indication that we have is that yes, it will be short and decisive. Short, honestly, short.
Wow.
By their standards maybe, but it's like the second item on the agenda. They talked about this at length a couple of weeks ago. They went through some of the issues that they had with the agreement on joint use. Basically, UNLV got a lot of what they wanted. They didn't want to be committed to providing any parking for the Raiders during game days. That's not an issue. They knew from the very start that the NFL and the Raiders would have first dibs on scheduling. So that's pretty much clarified.
Let me ask you this. Someone asked me this today earlier because the 2 non-conference games, I get that. I mean, you usually have 2 or sometimes 3, but they get 2. Okay, I think they can deal with that. Someone asked me today, though, does this mean, let's say UNLV as a university wants to hold some sort of, whether it be non-sports or sports-related event at the stadium in, let's say, June or July of a certain year. Do they have the ability, like anyone else, to go in and rent the facility? Does this agreement give them an edge or an advantage over others?
The way it's envisioned by most of the Board of Regents is that this would be something for like graduation, for example.
Yeah, so exactly. Non-sports event, but they want a big structure and nice structure.
I believe they have a couple of dates that they are able to get basically the same deal as the regular football season. They'll have their conference schedule as well as the 2 non-conference games, and they can also throw in a neutral site game. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of their ability to use that facility, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a game.
Yeah, you recently did fantastic work. You went to Minnesota, saw US Bank Stadium for the Review-Journal, a series on that structure. I'll be there for the Super Bowl to see it. You've toured and been in it. So tell us, because the same company or same construction company is building that, US Bank is building this one, how much percentage-wise you think it's going to mirror? I don't think it'll be the same, but just the bells and whistles and all of that goes into that stadium, do you think there's going to be a lot of similarities, or do you think because one structure is in Minnesota with their weather issues and where they are in the country compared to out west here in Nevada with the hot summers?
It's going to be interesting to see how that goes forward, but I would think that it would mirror fairly closely, because one of the things that both the NFL and the Vikings have learned in that experience of building US Bank Stadium is that you can manipulate all kinds of different places within the building to either become a more home field advantage for your team or to generate revenue for yourself. So one of the things that astonished me was how many club venues there are within the stadium.
I'm looking forward to seeing the stadium at the Super Bowl and envisioning what might be here. All right, finally, we wait another exciting Stadium Authority Board meeting. I know you lose sleep with anticipation over heading to another Authority Board meeting. It was, I believe it's next week from when we're taping now. And what can people expect? You're telling me that really you think they could get this final agreement done. They might, for whatever reason, push it a few weeks. Either way, you believe they're on time construction-wise, and you're still looking at 2020. But with this next Stadium Authority Board meeting, what do you think happens? Well,
I like to be optimistic on this and think that they're going to go through some of these, about a dozen agreements that they still have left to finalize. One of the things that we really haven't seen a whole lot of detail on is that personal seat licensing agreement.
Yeah, I'd like to know the price of those
as well. So that's still out there that hasn't been really talked about in a lot of detail. The meeting in February is going to be very critical, though, in terms of things going forward, because that's the time at which the contractor, Mortensen Construction, needs to provide a guaranteed final price for the stadium. I asked Mark Bedane at the last Stadium Authority Board meeting what would happen if that dollar amount came in considerably higher than they expected. And he kind of dodged the question. So he wasn't excited that I even asked the question, but it kind of makes you wonder what would happen if the estimate comes in higher than this $1.9 billion that we've been talking about, because as we both know, the Raiders are committed to whatever's left beyond the $750 million in public funds that's being put forth by state of Nevada.
I think you believe it's going to be north of $2 billion. Maybe not a lot, maybe a few pennies, but I get the feeling you might think the number you're going to report starts with a 2.
I do think that, but again, this is something that Bedane said, was that we've got people who have been estimating this, have been working on it, so we're not going to be off by much. So we'll see what happens. But I think that there's just a little bit in the back of my mind thinking this is where we could hit some kind of a roadblock.
Rick, thanks for all the detailed information and updates. Great stuff as usual. Good luck at the Stadium Authority Board meeting. I miss you at those. I miss you when we go. Well, there you have it. Another stadium show. We hope you enjoyed all the information here from myself and Rick. Follow Rick Velotta. He's the man on the stadium in this town. For all our coverage, go to reviewjournal.com, or you can check back here for daily and weekly updates at Vegas Nation. We will be back, I think, with another show after the next Stadium Authority Board meeting to update you on the progress of this stadium, again, set to open in 2020 here in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching. I'm Ed Graney.